Welcome on in, everyone. We are here for the final day of the LCS Academy Spring 2022 split. I'm Mazel here on Stream B with, for the first time, Mark Z and Latigris. I'm so excited to have the duo of you. Mark Z, we got to work together before, but Latigris here. Welcome you to the B stream. How you guys feeling? Are you ready for the last day of Academy? You got the energy packed and ready to go?
Oh yeah, it's gonna be a good time. Michelle, I'm really excited to be joining you. We've very briefly gotten to work together in the past on other projects, so now we get a full day of it.
Exactly. It's going to be a fun one here as we do dive into our first matchup. FlyQuest Academy taking on Cloud9 Academy. Both still trying to make their names here in the last day of the split. Obviously, a lot of things to still be decided on today going into Proving Grounds. But these teams together themselves, Cloud9 having had a big splash in the late game of the split itself because of Malice's entrance, because of the playstyle they bring, and FlyQuest themselves seem to have pulled it all
Yeah,
together.
I have
so
unmuted
far.
successfully now to actually talk and contribute to the conversation.
Boom.
There we
I'm
go.
really excited to see these two teams go against it, given that FlyQuest feel like they're starting to really come together. Their games yesterday looked a lot better, and for C9, there's always that interesting story about the scrim team and all this different stuff going on, especially heading into Proving Grounds and how that's going to look.
I mean, when looking just at the
Exactly.
momentum of the teams going into today, right? I think there are obviously a lot of high expectations for C9 and TL that are both playing on this stream, but FlyQuest and TSM both coming in pretty hot. And FlyQuest, I mean, game number 1 yesterday, hey, let's bring out that Mal fight, get that team fighting going. And then second game, extremely dominant over 100 Thieves. So a lot of confidence coming through.
Yeah, we put a lot of focus on Diamond through a lot of the split, but it's the other members that are just starting to shine up for me, right? Like Diamond has been a consistent rock or a diamond in the rough, if you will, for FlyQuest, but UG coming in, having a say in the jungle matchups. Spyrax having a bit of a rough start to the season, but really coming into his own as a mid laner in Academy. And Philip, the ever wholesome guy in the top lane, still being able to smash some matchups themselves. So FlyQuest are no slouches when you're coming into this as Cloud9, but we have seen, them have some iterations of issues, and for Cloud9 you can capitalize on that. Cloud9's playstyle is, we don't care what you do for the first 3/4 of the game, it's all about getting the late game and getting the farming, but we have seen them
Yeah, even just in their
struggle to
games
get there
yesterday, it
sometimes.
looks like things are going massively in their favor. Then they throw, and then they get far ahead one game, or the enemy team gets far ahead, and then they find a way back into it. I think you can tell that they're all super talented players, and I think you can see some of the struggles for King, for example, about not necessarily getting as much scrim time with them, and their overall priority being less about on-stage performance than perhaps some of the other teams that they're going up against.
Yeah, exactly. No one has questioned the individual talent of any of the players on this team. And you'll see one moment where, oh, King is the reason that they win the fight and move on forward. That late game, promise that you expect. And then another one where, the positioning wasn't quite there. The communication a little lackluster. So you got to keep an eye on them and how they do in those later portions of the games.
Yeah, that is the double-edged sword, I guess, of King. Is sometimes those positioning issues are interesting. But we will throw up the current standings here to give a little breakdown of what we will be getting into today. Obviously, we're talking about having 2 top table teams versus 2 of bottom side teams, but still everything matters in terms of seeding into Proving Grounds, right? That top 6 is a lock into the main event. We do have the bottom 4 teams of Academy going into that play-in round, the 1-round knockout best of 3.
Yeah, high stakes
in the
for a
Proving
single
Grounds.
best of 3. A lot can go wrong in a best of 3. I know that for a fact. And so I think, any teams that can claw themselves into that top 6, like you're saying, is a huge motivation for them. And you guys were going over the tiebreakers today. There can be some crazy ends to a split.
One of the craziest things about Proving Grounds is seeing how close the academy and amateur teams are. We've had a lot of upsets in the past. So having that additional security of bypassing play-ins can do wonders for just your mentality going into that bracket and trying to secure a top spot.
And just look at the same special. I know we're on the last day. Special shout out to CLG and Golden Guardians for making it to the top of the bracket. Likely very different from last split. But back to the focus of this series itself. It is the bot lane focus. It is a little bit of that conversation of King, the scrims, and how he has been pairing with Isles himself. Still a lot of pop-off moments. There is a reason why this guy is still holding
Yeah,
his
I mean,
spot
King
as the
on
academy
that
leader.
Zeri game yesterday. This is actually Neon on it here, but or Eon, excuse me. King also had a Zeri game as well and looked really good. He got fed, I believe, in both the games, and he's someone who has more experience than I think. If you're not familiar with him, you would give him credit for, both coming over from Oceania as well as his performance in Proving Grounds last year. He is someone who, despite the lack of scrims that we talk about, does have a lot of stage performance that I think will be very useful going into these higher pressure best of fives where you need to adapt more over the course of a series as you get like later into a tournament or something. So I think King is someone that, he's not as integrated maybe, but it's still someone that you can rely on hopefully in the bot lane.
When you think back to what has worked well for Cloud9 in the past in their Proving Grounds run of last springtime, I mean, this was the same lineup aside from the jungle position. And King and Isles, when getting that regular practice, were the first ones to bring out a lot of different compositions. That Seraphine bot that everyone was so fond of at the time. So while there isn't as much practice time leading up into the weekends, you can trust on that previous synergy when it counts most.
Yeah, exactly. And you just hope for those pop-off moments for King himself as well. But on the other side, it's not going to be any small task to take down FlyQuest because they do have Tomo and Diamond a lot of experience themselves
Yeah,
in
two
the NA scene
veterans
as
of
well.
the amateur slash academy scene, as well as some collegiate, I believe, for Tomo. So they're a bot lane that I think has become less of the focal point as the season went on. You were kind of talking about that, Mazel, about how Yuji and Spyrax in particular yesterday really popped off and punished 100 Thieves. And so I think this is a bot lane that might not be getting a ton of resources, but sometimes that's a nice part of having an experienced bot lane is they know how to play weak side, which is one of the harder things I think to learn in the pro game. It's easy to learn to play with all the resources given to you. It's actually harder to learn when you're not going to be getting that help, and I think that's something that Tomo and Diamond can learn use well, as well as Diamond's roams as a whole.
There's also that additional layer. While it's very common for players within Academy to play on multiple teams, I mean, Tomo and Diamond were also a member of Cloud9 back in that dominance in Academy in 2020. Diamond having
Yep.
played with King as well, but they were such a point, and then also leading to a later trade between Cloud9 and FlyQuest. So it's cool to see them coming through here after surging a bit and trying to prove that they're going to be in competitive form wherever they land up in play-ins or otherwise.
It's crazy to me, like all of those roster moves from a couple years ago and all the crazy trades, like all gets completely forgot about because of the recent craziness. But yeah, it's been an interesting trek, and especially for Diamond player who we've highlighted so much. Him meeting up with Yuji and that connection of the jungle and support meeting up on the roams early is so crucial for FlyQuest because you do have good mechanical skill. You have a stable top laner in Philip, but it's about trying to unlock Spyrax in the mid lane because this guy Spyrax, like if you don't know, Maryville standout, came in the last little bit, came into Gateway Legends, was able to dominate. This guy won the trophy at Gateway Legends. I was talking to his manager a minute after they did the trophy photo. He said he wanted to go back to the scrims and he wanted to go back to playing solo queue. So this FlyQuest team has a lot of motivation behind it. Obviously not coming together as much, but it still is something to be said going against Cloud9, who we hold in a little bit higher regard.
I think Spyrax looked really good yesterday when I was talking about the 100 Thieves game. There was not great vision control, it felt like, from 100 Thieves, and him and Yuji combo together to make a lot of plays. And also in that replay that you just saw, talking about Diamond's roaming, the Hex Flash over the wall, comboing together. And I think if they can get Spyrax, Yuji kind of rolling, that will be a huge part of progressing far in Proving Grounds because if you're able to make the multi-man roam snowball a lane, especially one that has some proactivity, if it's like an Ari that's been picked or something, that will enable you to make a lot of big plays and find pickoffs from teams that you're expecting to probably not have great vision control. It's one of the things that, amateur and academy teams can sometimes struggle with a little bit more. So that's something that they exploited yesterday versus 100 Thieves, and they can potentially do again today against Cloud9, who, like we've talked about, sometimes throws, and then moving forward into Proving Grounds as well.
I loved hearing Spyrex talk about that in the post-game interview as well, acknowledging the importance of that mid-jungle synergy and the fact that they have been working through that. Yes, you
Yeah.
have the veterans in Tomo and Diamond down there in the bot lane, but you are looking towards these newer additions to really pop off and bring the team towards those overall victories. And if we can see them repeat that, especially considering the additional context that Spyrex gave us, practice wasn't going that well. I was a little surprised by results too, but push that out of mind and bring that competitive nature to the Rift when it counts.
Well, he's going to need to bring that competitive nature because he is going up against none other than Cloud9 Academy's copy. Huge rock and stable point for Cloud9 to play around. His connections with Malice have been insane. His mechanical plays, his macro plays. This guy is on one this year. He is on one to prove that he deserves a spot in the LCS. And being able to see him go against Spyrex, it's got me oh so excited. But I do hear that we have some technical difficulties on the tournament realm side. So we are going to step away for a little break while we get that all solved out for you guys. We'll be right back with game number 1 of the day.
From the hell still lives on, throws heck from the doubt of my mind.
Welcome on back, everyone. We are here getting through some technical difficulties, but we are making progress. We'll have the first game underway shortly as we want to pick back up that conversation before we get into draft, guys. Welcome back, Latigress. Welcome back, Mark Z. I want to go back to the Copy versus Spyrax conversation.
Yeah, I think,
still
for
it's
me,
so interesting.
Copy, especially with how he combos with Malice, is such a big part of C9 and how well they do, because there's like two versions of Cloud9 Academy. There's like the Malice gets fed and like turbo stomps the whole game and kind of requires his team to play well around him to make that happen. And then there's the other side, which is like the laners kind of either got abused without him being there, or like they just didn't work well together and setting up Malice, and then everything falls apart. And I think Copy in the mid lane is a huge part of that, if he's able to either control his lane or get comboed together with Malice.
Yeah, exactly that. I do get word that we are ready for Champs Select, so we'll see how that matchup does unfold and how this one unfolds, because FlyQuest Academy and Cloud9 Academy are kicking off. So
Bye,
y'all, take it away.
See you
Bye
later.
bye.
Time to get into game number 1. FlyQuest Academy taking on Cloud9 Academy. And we already got to speak about some of the specifics about the matchup and the players. But one thing as well that you can expect coming into this game, there tends to be multiple bans against the jungle position. That's a little different this time around, though. FlyQuest taking another direction.
Yeah, I think it's been so long of just permaban Malice's most annoying, in air quotes, most unique champs, I guess you would say, the Karthus's, the Evelyns, and whatnot, that it's rare to see people taking actually different tact here and target. It feels like solo lanes a little bit more with the Tryndamere and Aurelia bans.
And maybe because of the recent pop-offs, or realizing that even when you're locking out Malice, he has still managed to find some picks that he has been serviceable on. Darshan has been such a standout for some time, and also in his interview was noting the fact that because of how Malice likes to play, he's having to play differently within that lane, and it's almost allowed him to grow that much more. But this time around, getting some lock-ins here. Hecarim's still up, so Malice taking the pick that he has picked most throughout the entirety of the split.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised to see the Ryze taken over Hecarim. I mean, even separating the fact that it's Malice's Hecarim, which is insane. Hecarim is also considered to be one of just the strongest junglers in the current meta right now. People tend to look to grab that thing first if they can. You heard Blabber on the LCS talking about how strong it is, and even separating that from Malice shows that like it should be super high priority for every team, and to just hand over that plus Karma feels like, wow, you must really want a lot of value out of that Ryze.
And hopefully have some way to affect the map in a very proactive way. I mean, you've got Viego getting locked in for UG potentially here, has had some success in that regard. Tomo on a trusted pick in Aphelios, very prized ADC for a lot of the bot laners within Academy. But then King on Ezreal, that's just going to offer a lot of that reliability that you want to see from that bot lane carry.
Yeah, the Ezreal's been coming back up a little bit higher in priority in recent weeks. It feels like people have always been struggling to figure out what they want outside of Aphelios Jinx. And behind that, people were like, Jhin, Varus, Ezreal, Caitlyn? I don't know. And with Caitlyn Zeri banned out, it's like, okay, well, the Jinx got removed this time around. It did put an interesting pinch on the AD carry position, and because C9 prioritized getting the Karma with the Hecarim right away, that allowed the Aphelios to fall through into 2-3 and then kind of creates that pinch situation. So That's, of course, why they left for the Ezreal there. One, it combos well with Karma as a whole, and two, you're worried about more pinches coming in, and suddenly you're very far down the AD carry tier list.
Of all of those AD carries that you mentioned too, I feel like Jhin was kind of the one that was the most borderline. Some people were very contentious about, I don't know about this. Other people really leaning into it. So as more of a decision is being made on that pick, having Ezreal where so many bot laners are just comfortable on Ezreal in general gives you that level of reliability. And in the later stages of the bans here, it's mid lane that is getting blockaded by FlyQuest, the Orianna, some really key shockwaves from Copy when he's piloted that in the past, as well as recent R game, very strong too. And then no Camille, no Nautilus. Isles, while being prominent on both the enchanters and the engage supports, has gone more towards the engage and setting that up for the team as of late, with less of that coming from the jungle position.
Yeah, I think some of those mid lane bans they were expecting Copy to blind his and give counterpick to Darshan, so you get rid of some of the ones that they don't want to play into potentially for Spyrax. I wonder what they're going to combo with, because Corki is pretty safe, and we have seen FlyQuest throw some more attention to the mid lane recently. I think Yuji had a great game on his Viego yesterday, comboing it well with Spyrax. I believe it was his Ahri that he was on. But that was a game that looked really good out of them. But Corki can be really hard to abuse in a similar way and find kills and stuff like that. So, I mean, it is the Ryze. What am I saying? Ryze has already been first picked. I'm trolling. I'm so not used to seeing a mid laner taken that early. I'm trolling. Wait.
I was right there with you, like, oh yeah, let's go. Oh,
never mind.
you know.
I guess those are just bans to protect the Ryze. Then I'm trolling.
But,
Anyways,
I mean, yeah. Anyways, howdy do. As far as, while we haven't seen the Ryze as of recently, that will be the pick going into the mid lane. And then Jace getting locked up as well, trying to put some pressure onto Darshan up there up top, where he really tries to aggress and win that lane all out. And because of that, being left with the last pick here, wants to go for the Scion. Haven't seen it as much in recent weeks, though.
yeah, Sion has dropped off a little bit, but I think he's still kind of the premier tank in the top lane that wants to go pure tank, assuming that it's not like an armor stack Malphite situation. Obviously not the case here with the Ryze as well. So I like the sound of Darshan. There's a very heavy emphasis on scaling right now for the Cloud9 comp. The Corki, the Ezreal, Hecarim, Sion all just kind of get better with time. And it's going to be about kind of surviving the early game of Jace, Viego, and Ryze, assuming there's going to be dives going up into that top side if they get pressure. And then, of course, 1-3-1 versus front-to-back team fight comp for Cloud9. FlyQuest, if they do get those leads in the early game, then they get to pull Cloud9's comp apart and never really let it function how it wants to.
And the interesting thing about that, when you're noting what Cloud9 is going for, a team fight, trying to have that strength and scale into the late game, it's a strategy they've been sticking with time and time again, even when you change out some of the champion picks. So how prepared is FlyQuest for this? There is a lot on the line for them compared to Cloud9. While the fate is not completely in their hands, they do have to rely upon the results from EG and Dig games. They do have an opportunity to squeak into that top 6 to avoid play-ins for Proving Grounds if they perform well within this series. And we'll have to find out if they end up reading the matchup right.
Yeah, I think FlyQuest, you know, even if there's a couple things that need to break their way in order to actually get out of the play-in part of the Proving Grounds. They need EG and Dig to both go 0-2, I believe, to just get a tiebreaker versus Dignitas. So obviously you want a 2-0 anyways, but that's like the kind of hopium that they're looking for in this this kind of last day of the series, or of the split, excuse me. But the nice thing is you also just want momentum. Like, even if you 2-0 and Dig wins and you don't get that kind of rematch, at least you've gone into Proving Grounds with a 4-0 streak. I think the 2-0 yesterday looked really good over 100 Thieves, and Cloud9, you know, if they can take them down, one of the best teams in the Academy, that does bode very well for them in the future.
Especially when considering how the format works, because if I recall correctly, within Proving Grounds, as we get into the game right now, when you go down into play-ins, you could be a single match away from elimination. So making sure that you are as prepared mentally and at the ready on the Rift for that is super important, as FlyQuest makes some movement over towards this top side, gathering some intel malice up here as well.
Yep, just doing a little bit of pressure. I mean, Karma Ezreal's a little scary, so that's why they go for the top side version of this to poke around a little bit. You definitely don't want to face check them. You also see they warded out early, so Diamond knows what he's walking into here. It looks like they might be setting up a little bit of an engage here. We'll see what Diamond wants to do.
Lurking in the bushes, waiting for the friends to come on by, but Copy and King want to leave that door locked for now. Notice a little bit of questionable movement from the FlyQuest side, so everyone's going to return to their original positioning. No crazy shenanigans just yet. I feel like, so listening to the pre-show going into this, Mark, and I felt all of the, the emotions. It felt like a last day of school. I feel like we should have brought yearbooks or something coming into this, signing off on the last day of Academy.
Yeah, but we're like the transfer kids on the last day, you know? Like everyone else is like, school's out, woohoo, what a great year. And we're like, we just got here.
Yup. As somebody that went to 3 different middle schools, that's exactly what it feels like. Hey, bye, guys. But you know what? Proving Ground's right around the corner, and that's what I'm excited about when looking forward for these teams and what they're fighting for. Yes, we talked about the seeding, but just the way that you garner those accolades within this year is totally different than it has been in the past, whereas maybe some of your aim is on that Academy Championship. Here, it is that Proving Grounds title as a little bit of action down bot. It's just an E in from Diamond for that poke. Gonna get some poke off from King and Isles as well, as they are on the Karma, they are on the Ezreal.
Yep. I mean, so early on, you can expect that to go in their favor. Isles and King should be able to control that lane, though there probably won't be too much attention down there. Even though Malice is clearing down that side, I think it's mostly for bot side control more than like actually trying to turn a gank there. And it'll be about whether Yuji can get into these lanes and actually make something happen. Philip should win on the top side, but obviously you want to crush the Scion, and that can be hard to do one for one. And then the bot side, if you want to disrupt the Ezreal Karma, Leona's going to need some help, someone else to follow in. And so usually does have a lot of lanes that are going to want him to go there, and it's about picking the right time to actually go in there.
And well rehearsed on the pick. Did just play that Viego during game 2 against 100 Thieves. Only died once in the process as FlyQuest was extremely dominant and wants to be proactive this time as well. Darshan still at level 2, whereas Philip and Yuji are ready to collapse. They have a wave ushered in, and on the outskirts, Spyrax is ready to join into the party. Answer teleport, a flash away from Darshan to throw down the smash, and Copy offering that protection to keep him safe.
Okay, FlyQuest, I respect the restraints a little bit there. You know, you just go in, get the teleport out of Copy, and that does give you a small laning advantage now for Spyrax, as well as potential playmaking. If you want to like TP bot lane to protect them, you know, suddenly Copy can't match that, or maybe just tempo in the future. You know, the important thing about when you get an advantage like that is finding a repeat opportunity to then abuse that small advantage, because otherwise, you know, Darshan's like, all right, I got to survive their first wave crash. That feels pretty good.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering if he is going to try and capitalize upon that even more on that top side when speaking to how they can push it even further, because down bot, we already mentioned the fact that King and Isles will be pushing this wave in pretty effectively over time. Going to back right now, an opportunity for Tomo and Diamond to bring it even, but not necessarily anything that without jungler intervention that they're going to be able to make happen.
Nope, and that's fine. I mean, we talked about in the pre-show, Tomo and Diamond becoming a little bit more of or a little less of the focus, I should say. You know, the resources going to the other lanes, especially the soul laners, and that's kind of what you're expected to do in this matchup: is lose gracefully, take your trades so you can get them, protect your turret, get as much farm as you can, and just be relevant for engaging later on. And unless Yuji finds an opportunity to go down there, but as you can see, Cloud9 have pretty good vision control. Isles doing a good job roaming around, getting a ward, kind of in that jungle entrance, the pink ward as well, making sure that when he gets back down there, him and King can start pushing away freely.
And some of that success from Spyrax in the past was because of the roams that Diamond brought through. Just additional poke here, get the level up for Tomo. But when you have it warded effectively across the river like that, it's going to be more difficult for Diamond to make those earlier plays, and can't really go for those 2v2s as effectively down bot either. So Cloud9 already looking for ways to lock down someone who has been very important for the overall aggression and engage on the side of FlyQuest.
Yep. So far, so good. You have Hecarim farming up as well. They have a small gold advantage. And this is one of the things that I think is always a little tricky when you talk about, like, oh, this is the more early game team when we talk about FlyQuest. It's less about their lanes dominating and more about what their game plan is as a whole. As you see, C9 actually going for a little bit of a freeze there on the recall, instead trying to pull the wave a little bit, and Diamond ended up showing on that ward as well. So now C9 are wise to what they're trying to do.
And Malice hanging down around there, just farming up, but King ends up eating away. A good lockdown onto Diamond. He's all in his lonesome. Don't need no Malice here for the ride, because that's first blood to C9.
I'll be honest, I am so confused at what the play was there. Maybe I'll try and break that one down in a second, see if they can find a move on to Darshan, who's walking back up to his turret. He's kind of baiting Spyrax to stick around.
Chillin tries to go for a hit, but there are 3 FlyQuest members here with the root. Even got the path here for some extra attention to this pick off, and Darshan effectively dove and effectively killed.
Yeah, that was a little greedy from Darshan. He backed off the wave correctly the first time, but it was such a big wave, he couldn't resist the urge to go back up there and contest it. Spyrax had not totally abandoned the play yet, so he just turns right back around. They pull that dive off. They deny a chunk of the wave. And during that time, Malice had shown bot lane, so they knew there was no way to contest after getting the TP out of Corki earlier. Really nice dive here by FlyQuest, coordinating well. And the copium for Darshan is that while he does greed this wave out, he sees that cannon, he wants to charge up the full empowered Q. With the W, he does get a little bit of the wave there. Not so bad, given that they're also getting Dragon on the opposite side of the map when that happened.
Just a little bit, and at least you can have confidence in that trade. I mean, even from moments ago, it was a bit more of that Cloud9 prioritization towards that bot side to get that dragon, whereas FlyQuest was setting up the vision over towards this top side to hopefully have some pressure here. But everybody back to the reset.
Do we want to talk about that diamond play, or are we going to just gloss that one over? Temporary insanity?
We can talk about it.
Can we plead temporary insanity? I don't, he tried to 1v1 King with Isles around and cleanse up to cleanse the ignite. I don't, not like King was that low. I wish I could try and figure out what he was thinking, because I don't think anyone really thinks they're just gonna 1v1 the AD carry like that randomly. But it wasn't like he was dead either. Sometimes you see that kind of play when someone knows they're dead and they go for it, but Malice wasn't flanking. I just don't know I don't know why he did it. I don't know why he did it.
Malice was still up towards his jungle side, and even with that movement speed, wouldn't have necessarily been able to make it down.
Yeah.
And I think this is sometimes the double-edged sword that we're seeing with Diamond, where as getting set up right now, he's usually the first one to go for the plays, but sometimes sticking around a little too long. Tomo is separated from the rest, so he can't continue on with the rest of FlyQuest here. Gets sliced through a little bit by True Shot, Barrage, King, and Isles wanting to push him and the wave off.
Nicely done there by Cloud9, fending that one off. Spyrax has moved around the map a lot, kept even in farm during that time. So Spyrax having a nice game so far. Just unfortunately, Cloud9 were in position to defend that one. They don't want to brute force that dive pre-6. Maybe at 6 with all the CC that can come in from a Felios Leona lane, you can kind of insta-gib one of those members, but not enough lockdown without that. So quickly, Cloud9's bot lane reestablishes pressure afterwards, starts getting some more turret plates in their favor, get that gold lead back in their pocket.
Tomo did just hit 6 too, so that's one thing that they had to be wary of. While King had recently used the True Shot Barrage, they have been a bit ahead, and now out in the fog of war, there is a Malice lurking, potentially. Tries to go for the play. Tomo throwing out the Moonlight Vigil, but the Onslaught of Shadows finishes him off. Diamond corralled under his turret. A little bit of juggling of that turret aggro, but not enough of a wave to follow up here. So they take the kill, and they're happy about it.
Yeah, nice dive there by C9, just right up the gut, straight through lane, find that kill. Isles did try a tricky flash over the wall to make it work, but Diamond missed his E there. Second time kind of in a row, it looked like. So I think he's been struggling a little bit on the Leona pick here. Not that it would have been able to save Tomo, given that the rest of FlyQuest were nowhere in position for that. No TPs up to cover that play. Taking a look at it here, you'll see there was a nice idea about kind of trying to wrap around. It was just warded out so they could see this one coming, and that's why the empowered mantra Q flash over the wall didn't quite work. But there's just no defense available, and Diamond was not able to land any CC onto anyone.
I love seeing it, though. You got to be able to set up for the play like that, and it's something that Isles has no problem doing. Meanwhile, Darshan running into it with Philip a bit, maybe unaware until he went over that ward that Malice is over here on the top side. Philip pushed on back and pushed into the grave.
Alrighty, wheels coming off a little bit here for FlyQuest. Your bot lane gets exploded. Okay, they weren't really the strong point in your map anyways, but then Philip, the one who had gotten all those early resources out of Spyrax, gives a kill back from a lack of vision control.
Oh, Diamond so deep, Isles so low, Root follow up, Spyrax trying to go onto it, copy, can he get some last damage onto Diamond? There's just a bit of that sustain with the biscuits and all from both members of FlyQuest here, so they can move away after acquiring that pick.
Yeah, a little dicey, going for that 2v2 deep in the jungle, but had enough damage to make it happen. Now they're going to try and transition that down to a dive onto King, who just lost his support a moment ago.
And I think he sees that this is happening, hugging closely to the turret, has the teleport come in once again. This time it's from Darshan, and the pings on that top side that Philip is throwing down. He saw this happen, doesn't have the wave though to punish that TP just yet, but at least you know that summoner is expelled.
Still a nice little trade back there for FlyQuest to actually help their top laner in the end. Philip TP'd back for lane, got the wave shoving right away, whereas Darshan used his TP down bot to protect that. So Philip gets alone time on this turret. Darshan also used his ultimate on the initial kill onto Philip, which means he can't do the Scion Rage ult back down lane. That's basically a teleport, you know? So he's actually going to lose a lot of this turret. Might lose the entire thing, given that usually just dropped the Rift Herald up there as well. So that little pick off by Diamond was a great way to stabilize the game for FlyQuest right when it felt like they were starting to lose control of it.
And this is the reward for the attention paid earlier from the top side of UG getting that Rift Herald. They can go and get those plates taken off. And now Darshan really punished for having to save his bot laner here in King. And even though it was a dicey play at mid, FlyQuest responding immediately to make sure they capitalized upon that kill. Cloud9 continued their stacking though, so a second Drake towards them, and this tower is so close to falling.
Yeah, oh, they
Flash
don't want to let it go.
forward, Solar Flare down. Diamond goes for the play. Blade of the Ruin King for some nice damage as Yuji gets the pop off. Still
Isles-
seeing if he can run into anybody.
Oh, hold on. I was about to pop off about something, but it's not over yet.
Spyrex also going through ultimate use from Malice to get out of this equation, and Copy, while collapsing on the opposite side, has to worry about the turnaround. Diamond having his E back up and available, even throws out the emote for a little bit of extra effect.
Okay, well, Malice trying to get his Gromp now as well. Usually might try and punish him right here.
Oh, is a Gromp worth it? Is a frog a good pet? Goes for it, charges on in. Malice is low, and even though he has the assistance of Isles right now, can they turn this around? Diamond falls, Spyrex now on the retreat. Copy, Valkyrie over the wall, tries to throw down some of those autos and some of those missiles as well. A hefty one to connect, but Spyrex is free.
Yep, Spyrex able to get out of there. It's a very back and forth game right now. Both teams, you could argue, overstaying at different points in time. Now it's King's turn potentially to be overstaying.
And
he
he's
has the shift.
4-0 right now. Has a good bouncy on his head, has Isles back in it. So Spyrex, because this tower is so low, is here hoping to clear some of this wave and keep it alive until Tomo and Diamond can make their return, as they are currently retreating down. Or actually, it is Yuji and Diamond that are coming through, Tomo being sent over towards that mid side because of Spyrex's current location.
Right, so here, even though he gets the kill on Malice, I think he was rooted up or stunned and for some reason wasn't able to collect his soul there and pick up the Hecarim and then use that to continue rampaging through the fight. Otherwise, that might have looked a little different. But the entire sequence started because Isles, without his flash, not kind of respecting that chain CC at 6 combo that I was talking about that Aphelios Leona can do when Purple Gun is up. And they were just able to blow him up, led to that big chase down sequence where, you know, kills were being traded back and forth. End of the day, though, taking stock of it, about a 1.5k gold lead for Cloud9. Even though they only are up a single kill, a lot of that is coming from the slightly better laning and farming and turret plays that they were able to grab.
Oh, I'm looking at this right here where Diamond and Yuji, they were setting up for this, calling for it, and all Solar Flare dropped onto the head of Isles and immediately eliminated. FlyQuest making the smart move to back off of that individual pick.
Isles been struggling a little bit on the Karma. This is why with Karma you have to be really careful when you use your flash. That one over the wall didn't really help them get that dive off. It would have looked really cool, but then he gets punished once for dying. Then you lose vision control on Karma, and suddenly you have to face check these situations because you lost tempo when you're really not supposed to do that with Karma Ezreal lanes. You know, like you want to be up pushing most of the time. And so now that he's the one walking in, he's able to get picked off. This allows Spyrex to get alone time in the bot lane and continue to claw this gold lead better in their favor. And the important thing is not necessarily who has the individual gold lead, but where that gold is allocated. The fact that Jace has gotten a lot of turret plates, some kills, and a big CS lead, and now the Rise is getting kind of fed, that's concerning because they don't ever want to group up. And so if they just have better 1v1 matchups against anyone else on the Rift, you have a hard time dealing with it for Cloud9.
And even though the gold is fairly even, the map pressure alone taking a different turn than maybe expected in the earlier minutes where King and Isles were really pressuring that lane. But because of these individual picks, whether it be over in mid, whether it be over in the jungle, that turret still stands down in the bot lane for FlyQuest. Maybe it's just a little bit of blow of a leaf that'll send it over, but FlyQuest are the ones to now have 2 turrets in both of the side lanes and really opening themselves up for that split pushing that they can achieve.
Yep, second Rift in their back pocket as well. It might be hard for them to actually get that bot lane turret because their AD carry and support are going to be stuck mid lane. Yuji, whoa, buddy, not respecting it.
Yeah, King still hits pretty hard, even though things didn't go the way last time around. Diamond wants to go for another initiation. Solar Flare Philip coming through with a smackdown, collapsing upon from the top lane. FlyQuest, they're out on top in this one, and they have that Rift Herald that was mentioned prior, which means they can go for an attempt to take out all the outskirted turrets. Malice, the target of the E from Diamond this time, but a speedy horse indeed can just retreat back to the second and await this second charge from Shelly.
Nicely done there. I mean, this is what you want to do when you have priority as a top laner, especially as Jace. Don't just sit there and like auto Scion in lane. Get out of lane, start influencing the map, go pick off that Ezreal who was just playing aggressively around the mid lane, and he's not ready for that angle that you're able to take and find that kill. So that was, you know, FlyQuest showing an understanding of the 1-3-1 there. Even when they get a little bit too far forward, Diamond says, hey, you know, we have Philip collapsing. We can just go and blow this Ezreal up. He is very dangerous, but he doesn't have his defensive items. We'll see if he ends up going any, because there's a lot of engage here. But that's a nice pickoff. The one good thing for Cloud9 that we haven't really touched on is Drake control from the Ezreal Karma lane. 2 dragons in their favor. And so that's something that they can use to try and stabilize this game, because they'll force the 1-3-1 comp to come down and actually fight them around these dragon timers.
And coming back to it, we could be having a skirmish for that exact reason. Dragon is up. This is sole point for Cloud9. They want to prioritize this as a win condition. They have been going for the entirety of the game. But on the other hand, FlyQuest, they don't want to test this too much, maybe too wary of giving over that momentum to Cloud9. So they decide to back off and set up elsewhere.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised they didn't try to contest that one. Maybe with the lack of ultimates that were up. You know, the fact, I think Diamonds wasn't quite available. Tomo's is still down, so maybe they didn't think that they could fight that without them. But that does give a very early third dragon over, and so you're looking at, you know, a sub 25-minute soul fight that they're forced into here. It's a little scary given that they haven't stopped any yet. Even if you just lose the flip, you know, like C9 from behind could still flip the Baron, and then if you, or Dragon, excuse me, and then if you lose the soul point, it's very dangerous. So this is still a very touch and go game, very back and forth. I'm really enjoying this.
Yeah, only about a little over a 1K difference in gold right now for FlyQuest. And when you think about the fact that Cloud9 are positioning themselves to scale later into the game, they're okay with that as long as it's a fairly minimal lead for their opposition here. In the end, though, the map pressure is still being pretty good for FlyQuest. A heavy hit onto King off of that Moonlight Vigil. And a really fast Scion coming on with that ultimate right down the jungle pathway. Takes down Tomo. And it looks like they want to follow up just a little bit more. Isles rotating through with that movement speed and knock up from the Scion. Gets rooted, but Yuji can't quite get locked down from the tether. Philip flashing away. Darshan flashing forward as well. Yuji is still in the vicinity, but under cloak right now. So in the end, Cloud9 backing off. How scrappy is this?
This is a scrappy game. That would look like, was that Scion invisible? It just allowed him to walk up into melee range almost and hit him with a Q. Feels like FlyQuest lost a little bit of their focus there. Both taking a fight around the mid lane and one in the jungle at the same time, kind of not knowing exactly how they want to do it. You really want to be pulling Cloud9 apart more. Here it's just a scrappy fight where Diamond gets cut off by multiple members of the enemy team before Spyrax, Yuji, and Philip can really collapse in there. But then while they're reacting to Diamond being caught out, that means no one is protecting your you know, kind of immobile Aphelios, and that kind of allowed Darshan to find that angle onto him and then continue chasing through the fight.
Not very much vision on that pathway, so not a lot of reaction time for that unstoppable onslaught that had Tomo right in the crosshairs. So even that small gold lead that had existed prior for FlyQuest now minimized just that much more, but still fairly close within this game. Just a chance to try and clear out some of this vision. A lot of this was just standing over control wards from the last time they were here for the Dragon Pit, but still want that chance to be able to roam without anybody seeing you.
Yeah, I think this is the part of the game where it should be a little bit more FlyQuest favor. The fact that Cloud9 got that fight is not great for FlyQuest, because this is when you can split them off. There's no objectives that they're forcing to collapse to. You can get this vision control, like you're saying, spread the map out, and then either pick people in rotation or use that vision to then go make your own map movements to find people cut off in side lanes, like the Scion that they're kind of pinging out on the map right now. We'll see if they end up collapsing or just turn around onto the rest of the group here.
And they do have to worry about how quickly the C9 squad can rotate over and target you, like Diamond just got. Throws down his ultimate right before he falls, but in the end it's not enough to keep everyone alive. So the major sources of damage are already eliminated. Spyrax down, Tomo down, Cloud9 showing their prowess in the team fights.
Let's go, Cloud9. They thought FlyQuest found them in the jungle, but it was actually Cloud9 favor. They get that grouped up kind of 5v5 that we were talking about them wanting, as Copy makes a bit of a mistake there in the mid lane, but I think C9 should still be fine. We'll see. Philip is up.
I can imagine the calls.
Yep.
Yeah, just sticking on this Baron right now. They sacrificed their mid laner and Copy, but they still have their jungler in the vicinity. UG trying to set up. They can't get anywhere around this Baron. No way for them to get vision on it, so they just have to let it go. Maybe catch somebody out on their backs, but UG already so low. A knock up and a stun up for Philip. They were just watching it all go down, so that's a pretty Baron indeed, wanting to snap that picture, and in the end, their tape was the one lost.
Let's go. There we go. Cloud9. It looked a little dicey there after the Copy mistake, but there's still no way to realistically contest that. And this fight that you see on your screen right now was just FlyQuest taking the front to back 4v4. It's really not really what your comp wants to do. Malice is able to explode Diamond, then retarget onto the back line. Darshan collapses before Philip. It's just not at all what this comp wants to be doing. We're talking about map movements and picking people off and not really fighting team fights. And the fact that they got baited into that one there just shows Cloud9 understanding how their comp functions a little bit better. And Malice as well, just having a really nice team fight despite not really getting ahead. One of the big recipients of all the craziness this game has been King, as an Ezreal, just great at picking up kills.
And the rest of the team doing so well of fighting within the corridors of the jungle as well when forced to. But maybe another fight here. Teleport coming through when Philip leaps on in, throws back Darshan into the middle of the fight. Does have his passive, so he's just going to get locked up to make sure he can't slam onto any more members of FlyQuest. The range from King offers a poking opportunity, but it's FlyQuest that are positioned around this dragon, which is the soul for Cloud9 if they can grab it. And Ocean won at that, but Malice already brought below 50% HP. Teleport comes in from Copy, so the 4 members are here staying strong. Malice still in a vulnerable position. Ooh, a heavy chunk onto Copy as well. Spyrax flashing forward. The Valkyrie used with the special delivery to get out of here and not lay down the damage that Cloud9 would need to be able to turn this. Heavy Qs coming from Philip as well. The zoning is good from FlyQuest. One final shot will all be that it takes for Philip to die, but he stands behind the rest of his members.
All right, bit of a poke situation here. Here we go.
It's just poke on poke. Diamond, another ultimate from him. King blasted on down right here in the blue pit. Isles and Copy stuck on the other side of this jungle, so they can only help so much. It is still the 2-for-2 trade thus far, as Darshan has made his way back to the fight. Fully unstoppable. Goes for it on Philip. Gets the flash out of the enemy top laner, but turns his spies back onto Spyrax. But Tomo, the damage output is so strong when he is in the vicinity like that. Copy, again, a Valkyrie to get away after that heavy hit. Darshan, as tanky as he is, can't block the rest of them off. Spyrax falls in the process. Darshan's eyes now back on Tomo. 3v1 directly around this dragon pit, but Tomo is the strongest one at that. A long side route onto Copy, but it's only time left on the clock. That time now hitting 0. Cloud9 back onto the objective.
Okay, this has been so back and forth. Initially, way back, I was going to say what a disaster that Darshan gets picked right on Soul Point. I thought FlyQuest are going to be able to control it pretty easily. Maybe they won't be able to because they're waiting for Hecarim, but that's also buying time for Yuji to get in. Yuji has no flash. Cloud9 should control this from here, but not the best use of a Baron buff, I'd say, getting into a 2-minute prolonged dragon fight. But at the end of the day, they get the Soul Point, all according to Keikaku. They're ready to go. You know, they got their big team fighting soul now, and they should be able to win the game from here after just an insanely long sequence of poke back and forth. I feel like FlyQuest couldn't quite find the engage they wanted, and they didn't want to just flip the dragon, when I really think you kind of need to take a little bit bigger of a risk there, because like you said, this just takes so long that Darshan's eventually able to respawn, they get back into this fight, and while again, it's not the cleanest engage, it's just so hard for C9 to, or excuse me, FlyQuest to punch through Darshan's health bar. This Shock Blast was a huge part of why they were potentially able to turn this fight for FlyQuest, but Spyrax just got a little too hyphy trying to go in there and gets exploded.
It was a Mystic Shock here, a Shock Blast there, so much poke, and then you would think that once Copy had to use the best of his kit to get out of the fight, that was just a lot of resources that Cloud9 no longer had. But FlyQuest continuing to push the agenda. And in the end, it was pushing that Cloud9 was able to punish and come back through. So that soul has been achieved. Ocean right on their back. So all that yum healing that you like to see from this scaling team. Their ultimate here from Darshan, seeing if they can catch out Tomo, has to use the Gale Force to rejoin the rest of his team in the jungle. They have a little bit of vision down here as well. True Shot slams into Diamond. But the tankiest member at that, and Tomo and Yuji making sure that they don't join him. But Philip was going for the flank positioning and gets caught out in the process. So now C9 feel they have the agency to continue on to this. Tomo trying to get his ultimate out for a bit of damage, but in the end it doesn't work. Spyrax as well falling to the wayside. So with that, Yuji and Diamond, only one standing. This tier 2 turret should go over to Cloud9 with a little bit of wave on their back, and they can continue to push this because you've got a tanky boy in that Scion to take these shots, and he's got his eyes on zoning right now.
All right, Cloud9 looks like they should be able to close the game out from here. 20 seconds left. They have minion wave. Actually, right as I say that, they decide to back off instead. I thought they were going to try and escort that minion wave in, but Baron buff has expired, so they're not going to be able to use that. And just a really clean fight in the jungle there for Cloud9. Darshan just kind of running forward and zoning Diamond off of any of the primary targets to find and engage, and kind of allowing King to run through that fight and pick off whoever was the closest threat to him.
And Diamond being that focal point for that engage, but also one of the ones leading a lot of these plays in general. That's the problem in FlyQuest. Just not able to hold on once C9 just get that answer that they can go ahead and hit that go button. And because of that, now bringing their eyes over towards the top lane, taking down this tier 2. You can see how effective some of this poke is, but in the end, it doesn't matter. Darshan, just such a big boy at this point to put himself between his team and the rest of them. That frontliner that you want to allow King to just shoot off at the willy-nilly in the back line and take down this turret as much as possible. FlyQuest really on the back foot right now as they give up a second inhibitor.
Oof. Yeah, second inhibitor down. Tomo dropped as well. That's the go button for Cloud9 to try and end this game. They find the rest of FlyQuest. Looking good.
Fear and knockback from Malice just to make sure they secure it. 2 members standing. It's Yuji and Diamond again. No ultimate for Diamond. No last stand to be made from FlyQuest as the second Nexus turret falls. And Cloud9 proving the strength of their individual power and what that means for them as a team set the tone in this best of 2 with a win in game number 1.
Cloud9 take the scaling 5v5 team comp. They weather the early game pressure and map mobility of FlyQuest. They outperform them in team fights, grabbing the dragons, getting the Baron, and then close the game out pretty cleanly from there. I don't want to say that there weren't mistakes in this game, but it never really felt like they fell so far behind that they were honestly in trouble. Their dragon control around that third dragon was really good, and so from there it felt like, honestly, it was a well-controlled game from them.
Yeah, even when FlyQuest were finding those advantages, it was never so extensive that Cloud9 really had to delay any of their original win conditions. Going for the dragons, feeling that confidence in the team fights, and capitalizing upon picks that they were able to achieve when things didn't go FlyQuest way. So Cloud9 feeling good in game number 1. We'll see how they feel in game number 2, and if FlyQuest can bounce back. For now, we're hitting into a break, and on the other side, we'll see you for more of the action.